Good morning. Welcome to the Stylo News Intelligence Update. We're jumping right in today to break down a rapidly developing situation in the Middle East, where a conflict with some very serious global implications is escalating by the hour.
Now, this intelligence update is brought to you by ProWave AI. We're actually using their Stylo Intel Ops platform to help us make sense of all the complex information you're about to see.
All right, let's get right to it. Our focus is the Middle East, where a complex, multi-front conflict is intensifying, and the fallout from this could affect everything from global energy security to international stability.
So, our first area of focus is the most immediate concern, the sharp rise in direct military confrontations that has put the entire region on high alert.
What we're seeing is a really significant shift. For years, this has largely been a conflict fought through proxies and threats. But now we're seeing direct military strikes, what experts call kinetic action, between nations and their allies. It feels like the unofficial rules of engagement are changing right before our very eyes.
And the Persian Gulf has really become the central stage for this conflict. It's an incredibly crowded area, with both military assets and critical economic infrastructure, which makes any strike incredibly dangerous. The potential for a catastrophic miscalculation here is, well, it's extremely high.
And the pace of events is just staggering. In just the last few days alone, Iran confirmed the assassination of its intelligence chief. Then, in what appears to be retaliation, several U.S. aircraft, including a very sophisticated F-35, have been shot down. At the same time, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has launched strikes on energy facilities across the Gulf, while its allies, Hezbollah in the north and the Houthis in the south, have opened fire on Israel.
But this isn't just a regional military issue. Not anymore. The conflict is now directly targeting the world's economic arteries, its most vital shipping lanes.
And this is really where Iran's geography gives it incredible leverage. It has the ability to threaten two of the most critical maritime chokepoints on the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz, which is the gateway to the Persian Gulf, and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which controls access to the Red Sea and, of course, the Suez Canal.
To really understand the stakes, just look at this number, 20%. That's how much of the entire world's oil supply passes right through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption there is felt almost immediately, everywhere from your local gas station to corporate boardrooms.
And Iran isn't being subtle about this threat. A recent statement from its Revolutionary Guard Corps declared their intent to enforce a new security reality, stating quite plainly that the strait would no longer be accessible to U.S. and Israeli vessels as before.
This pressure on shipping lanes, though, is part of a much broader strategy. We're seeing the conflict being deliberately widened, spilling over borders and activating allied forces all across the region. In Yemen, for example, Houthi forces are not only launching long-range missiles at Israel, but are also actively threatening ships in the Red Sea. This effectively creates a second front of maritime pressure. And you can really see this spillover effect playing out across the region. In Lebanon, we've seen renewed rocket attacks from Hezbollah. In Iraq, U.S. positions are under constant threat. And now even Jordan, a historically stable nation, is being drawn closer to the conflict, with Allied air bases there identified as potential targets.
But beyond the missiles and drones, the fight has opened up on another front entirely, one that's digital and economic.
This is a major escalation. The very definition of a military target has now expanded to include the civilian, technological, and financial infrastructure that we all rely on every single day.
In a move that is frankly completely unprecedented, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has officially named major U.S. tech and industrial firms as legitimate military targets. We're talking about companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Google. They're being accused of aiding U.S. and Israeli military operations, which puts their employees and facilities in the region directly in the crosshairs.
And let's be clear, these are not empty threats. We have confirmed reports of attacks on Amazon and Oracle data centers, the personal data of senior U.S. officials being compromised, and disruptive cyber attacks designed to literally wipe data from Israeli companies. This front is very active, and it is causing real damage. All of this leads to the central question, the one facing every nation involved. What's the path forward? Is it more escalation, or is there still a window for negotiation? Now, what's really interesting here is how both sides frame their actions. From the U.S. and Israeli perspective, these strikes are a defensive necessity to weaken Iran's capabilities. But from the Iranian perspective, their actions are a justified retaliation to protect their sovereignty. So essentially, both sides claim to be the ones acting defensively.
Meanwhile, the international community is scrambling to respond. The Gulf states, right on the front line, are condemning the attacks and calling for help.
Key regional powers like Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey are trying to mediate a ceasefire. And major economic powers like China and Japan, who depend so heavily on the region's energy, are adding their voices to the calls for de-escalation.
And this brings us to the most pressing question of all. Given the incredible pace of events, the threats to global trade, and all this diplomatic maneuvering, what happens in the next 72 hours?
We've just given you a brief outline of the key fronts in this escalating conflict. For a much deeper analysis of the intelligence, the key players, and the most likely course of action, I encourage you to check out the full-length Stylo News intelligence update on this topic. It's available right now via the link in this post.
Thank you for joining us for this update. To stay ahead of global events with clear, concise breakdowns like this one, you can subscribe to Stylo News for AI-powered updates on demand. We will, of course, continue to monitor this situation very closely.